Good morning, everyone. It's Justin here. Welcome, everyone. So, as always, this is a session where if you got questions, please drop them in the chat box. We'll save them up towards the end. And yeah, hopefully there'll be lots of questions that Tori will be looking to go through with you. As I've mentioned, on today is myself, Justin Eddhouse. I'm CTO for Bechtle UK, and Tori West, our Modern Workplace Business Development Manager. She's going to take you through the agenda for today and through the slide deck. Over to you, Tori.
Hi, guys. Thank you, Justin. So just before I start with the agenda and we start kicking everything off, I just want to put a question in the forefront of your mind, which is, what is device as a service? What is device as a service to you? What is device as a service to your colleague or the business next door? At Bechtle, we say that the phrase device as a service is much like the word software. If somebody came to you and said, hey, I need a piece of software, you would have to ask 100 questions to get to that point where you could really recommend the right software to solve their business challenge. And device as a service is like that. It's a phrase that is thrown around by a lot of people. It probably has a lot of different definitions. To be clear, today we're going to be talking about the Bechtle DaaS offering. So it may be different from what you've heard before. It may be different from things that you see in the market, but what we're going to talk about and what we're going to define is our offering. So we've done a brief intro. Firstly, we'll talk about the driver for the change, why we've decided to really focus on our device as a service offering and build it out the way we have. Then we'll just touch on understanding the wider business and why we think that is such a key part of the offering. Then we'll go into the proposition, and then we'll sort of sum that up in a financial sense. So, challenges in the IT workplace. This is something that we did a lot of market research around, and I'm sorry for the phrase, the playground is changing. I'm sure you're all sick to death of hearing it by now, but it is true. By 2025, it's estimated that 40% of devices will be sold into an as-a-service model. I would probably hazard a guess to say that that is probably gone up dramatically this year, now that people are a little bit more remote, a little bit more flexible. 14% of IT time is spent managing devices, and I'm sure Justin can vouch for that when it says that actually a lot of that is end user error or very minute issues, and it does take a lot of time for somebody to say, oh, my keyboard doesn't work, my device won't turn on, and all it is a simple reboot. It takes you away from those strategy focused conversations you want to be having. And I think that's why that 65% believe that DaaS will have a positive impact on their device management. I think it's just taking them away from those smaller tasks. Now, there's a lot of challenges, I'm sure, when you look at changing something so fundamental in your workplace. We've highlighted 4 here. So the end user life cycle. It's difficult when you've got varying ages of devices, and the end users sometimes feel a little bit unsatisfied with what IT can do. So what we do is we ensure that there is a 3-year cycle, so your devices are updated regularly. It's quite unlikely that you'd have large issues within that time, and we can improve the end user, we can improve the support to IT, which in turn improves the end user support. Your IT team are more satisfied, your end users are more satisfied, and you should come across less of those issues because the devices are younger. Budget forecasting, I'm sure that is something that everybody is very mindful of at the moment. We want to offer, or we can offer, financing plans. That means that your budget is predictable, month on month for 3 years. I think that's a huge thing. It's no different from how we pay, for example, our mobile phones or our utility bills. There is safety in knowing what is going to come out at the end of each month, and that's something that we can offer. Device variety and complexity. Now, I know that there are aging estates, there are probably different vendors in some of your fleets just because of the way it's worked out. And what we would do here is user profile. I'll talk more about this later on, but basically it's just ensuring that the right person is getting the right device. It also gives the business a clear brand and a streamlined portfolio, so people understand where you're coming from and the priorities that you have as a business. And then management. And I think this is a huge one. I think this will be the next big thing, not just in devices as a service, but across all areas that we look at and all areas of IT, is how can I be more in control whilst not investing too much time? Now, we use predictive analytics and management tools. That's potentially helping you manage your service desk as well, additional services around that. So it makes the management proactive, predictable, whilst giving you, a complete overview without you having to be involved in the nitty-gritty. I'm not going to read this slide to you, don't worry. But what we want to demonstrate here is that we understand that these types of projects involve more people than just IT. This is a solution that is built with more than IT in mind. We appreciate that when we start looking at strategic movements for a business, there are a lot of key stakeholders who need to be involved, who need to ensure that they're seeing the right things. We've built this solution with your business in mind, so we can help liaise and help talk to the different stakeholders to ensure that they're getting the right information for them. And that might be different from finance to HR, that might be different from IT to HR, and we can support you in that. So let's put a bit of meat on the bones, I guess. What is our solution for better IT management? So the Bechtle Device as a Service proposition, I would say, obviously, is the perfect example of how we deliver new and expanded services that focus on solving problems for you guys. We can advise, and support you in making the right choices so that you can focus on the things that really matter. You're not getting bogged down in the nitty-gritty. You can focus on the bigger picture. And that's giving IT leaders the time to focus on business critical and strategic projects rather than, I need to restart my laptop. Now, this will probably be something that you may have seen before in different face potentially, but it's just understanding that device as a service for us is more than just a piece of hardware on a lease. Although financing is, of course, a service, we want to show that there are different layers of what DaaS is. The device is sometimes at the core, but there's other things like peripherals, consumables. How can we support you in making this easier for your end users? Do they have everything they need to do their jobs? Then the services. Now, I will speak in more depth about the services in a minute, but these are a key part of our solution. And then financing, again, that may not be something that works for you guys as a business, but it's something that we can offer. But it's more than just a device on a monthly cost. So we keep talking about the services. What are they? I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with some services that we offer as Bechtle, but also that you may have already used when enrolling your fleet. So things like putting an asset tag on it, pre-configuring the device, they may be very familiar to you, using autopilot, but I really want to focus on these two areas, and I really think that these two set us apart and set our offering apart. Being able to look at flexible SLAs is key for you guys and your business. We understand that there are some devices that are business critical and there are some devices that are less critical. Now, offering services like next day like-for-like swap service, and that is wherever the end user is, especially now. I think when people are a bit more spread, it's a little bit of peace of mind. And also being able to offer the Bechtle support if that's something you need. So that's using predictive analytics, the device monitoring, which is a HP solution, although it is vendor agnostic and multi-OS, so it still works on all vendors. But we can also support you in managing service desk tickets if that's something you need. I do want to say here that for HP and Lenovo opportunities that are European-wide, we do have additional services that we can offer, but I can speak to you about that on a one-to-one basis if that's suitable for you. We keep talking about TechPulse, I know. Like I said, it's vendor agnostic and multi-OS, and we can offer you a free trial of that for 30 days on your estate, so you can see for yourself if it works for you, if you get value from it. We don't want to be putting something new in front of you, telling you it's amazing without giving you the guys the opportunity to put it to the test. So I want to talk a little bit more about how those services look in the life cycle of those devices. You're probably familiar with the find the device you want, order the device and refresh. Like I said, the user profiles is huge for us, using TechPulse to make sure that you are getting the right personas and the right staff are getting the right device is so key to end user satisfaction, making sure that you're not paying too much for somebody who doesn't use their device very much or doesn't underutilizes their device. And also just making sure that you're getting less of those breakdowns unnecessarily. Trade-in. Now, trade-in is a huge part of this. And what we want to be explicitly clear about is if you're looking to refresh your estate, it's not that all your devices are lost. We can have a look at what the trade-in value for that is, and that's passed directly back to you with a residual value. I know that there may be some devices that are 5 years old that have less, but there may be some that are 2 years old that have a bit more. And we want to make sure that we can support you in all of this. And then the in-life services. So that's the things like monitoring your estate, ensuring that everybody has the right level of support, and also that estate management, giving you a bird's eye view of what's happening across the board. And I think that's the new way that we're proposing that this could all work. I want to talk you through a customer scenario, something that we've been working on around the device as a service proposal, and just so maybe you can understand how this could look for you. So I had a customer come to me. He took over the IT estate 12 months ago, and it was a mess. It was a bit of a mess. It was a bit of a shambles. He had no visibility over what there even was. I think there was an old asset register, but it wasn't really updated. And I think we've probably all been victim to that at some stage. There was different vendors. There was some devices that were 9 years old, some that were 18 months old, and he just didn't know where to start. So what we did first is we gave him, put TechPulse on his system so that we could have a look at what those users are doing. Now we found that some users were overutilizing their devices, some were underutilizing, and what we did is we helped create 3 personas. So that was the office worker, somebody who spends probably 80–90% of their time in the office, occasionally works off premise. The hybrid worker, that's somebody who probably spends 50–50, and I'm sure we're all very familiar with hybrid working at the moment. And then there's the road warrior, and that's somebody who is mostly off-premise, occasionally has a desk. What we wanted to do was have a look at what these users actually needed. So for the office worker, we found that giving them the option of a desktop or a core notebook was perfect for them. We were able to give them keyboards and mice to mean that they had ergonomic working with them and everything was fine. The hybrid worker, we found that depending on the level, either a core or a premium notebook was most suitable. Again, the accessories that might come with a hybrid worker could be a bag or a sleeve to put the laptop in to keep it safe and secure. And the Road Warrior, in this case, we found that it was most suitable to offer them premium or exclusive notebooks. Now, at this point, I do want to say that, of course, there is flexibility here. Their C-suite and MD wanted an exclusive notebook, despite the fact that they were mostly in the office, and that's fine. These profiles worked for the majority of their users, and it helped them to be able to define those profiles. We also looked at services, and for them, that was a huge part to help them minimize productivity loss, to help us support them and them to support their end users. So we were able to minimize device incidents through active monitoring, but also through making sure everybody had the right device. And we were able to solve incidents twice as fast than the traditional break fix process because we had the right SLA in place for them. Now, I know that the whole way through we've been talking about productivity, proactivity, and that can be hard to fathom. How do we associate a cost to that? How can we make that tangible for you? So you'll be very glad to hear we've done all the maths for you. We looked on average over 500 workplaces. The average salary was roughly £26 an hour. So that's what all this is based on. For this customer, we found that we could help reduce 50% of those cases, fixing them 50% faster. And when we have a look at incidents being about £416, that's built up of 16 hours lost per case, 105 incidents over the 3 years. And after those 3 years, those incidents go up at a staggering rate. Then if you add in associated costs like break fix, delivery, imaging, deployment, all those little extra bits, it makes it add up to nearly £550 per incident. We were also able to give them a 33% drop in incidents every year for those 3 years because they were able to proactively support. And I know, Justin, we have TechPulse on our system, and I know that when we first installed it, I think you were quite shocked at what you found.
Indeed, yeah. No, the very first thing it highlighted was that there were actually 3 systems that were about to fail, and so we actually caught those failures before they happened. It was the drives that were failing, and yeah, it absolutely was a game changer for us.
And I think we've used it ever since. And like I said, we are more than happy to support you and let you try that out in your own space to see if it's suitable. So we're nearly at the end, but if something has sounded interesting to you today, I encourage you to speak to your account manager. Doing a webinar like this isn't easy, and I mean that because so many of you will come from completely different backgrounds, different industries, different size organizations, and device as a service, or our device as a service, is supposed to be personalized. We want to make sure that it works for you. So this is a very general overview of what we can offer, but I'd love to be able to speak to you and maybe look at a personalized plan to see if it's suitable for you, to see if we can give you any advice, but it works better as a one-to-one conversation. If that's something that you like and something interesting comes from that person-to-person conversation, we can look at that profiling piece. And this way, every employee has the best device that suits the nature of their work. If that sounds also great, we look at deployment, make sure that all the devices are ready to use especially now when maybe you're not able to sit down with that end user. They can just turn the device on and we're up and running. If a new colleague is joining, if it's just a refresh, we can support you through all of that. And then the next part of I guess, the life cycle of device as a service is making sure that not only do you have that monitoring piece, but also the support. It means the lifespan of each device is predictable, as are the incidents, and you can support your end users and we can support you as best we can. Just to reiterate, there is that 30-day trial if you want to have a look at what TechPulse looks like. I can also just run you through a demo for half an hour if you don't want to go through the process of getting it up and running on your fleet, although after the demo I'm sure you would. And also, please, one-on-one conversation, a bit more personal. I think it's really important for us to understand that you all work individually, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. Thank you so much. It's been really helpful. Justin, are there any questions?
There are indeed. So thanks for that, Tori. I would like to say a few more things. Actually, that TechPulse thing is fantastic. It's AI. You know, we all talk about AI and the use of AI. Well, this is one of the fundamental areas where we can take advantage of it. It can do correlation of events. It can do all sorts of clever things, and obviously that's all automated. So there are some great things that come from the TechPulse AI features. So yeah, I really like TechPulse, and also the other thing I'd say to more of the operational guys out there that are working with laptops, at the end of the day, what you care about is what they do for your business. So you look at a big company that operates a fleet of lorries. They don't really care about the lorry. What they care about is what it does for their business, and they often have them in the hands of fleet management. So it's a great way of thinking about it, because that should be the same for all of you. You want to be getting on and driving business forward, making sure that the applications that are on their work and are delivering business value. So yeah, with that all said, we've got some questions here. So first one, Tori, is do I need to get rid of my existing fleet?
You don't have to. It is recommended because we can do that trade-in for you. The sooner, obviously, you can get rid of them, the more residual value they have, the better it is for you. Because we have that trade-in, it just supports that transition. You don't have to, of course. However, we would recommend that you do. It just means it's a clean-cut break. You get the most residual value from those devices. You don't have your end users saying, oh, well, so-and-so got a device and I'm still stuck with the old one. And it just means that, you know, you're making a statement. So no, it's not essential. However, it's recommended.
And when it comes to residual value, I think it's important also to remember, if you're in the situation where you have a large fleet, the value is slowly going the longer you take to deploy that new fleet. So the services piece that backs it up allows you to retain some of that residual value by getting your deployment to happen sooner. So another question that's come in is, do I have to OPEX my DaaS solution?
Again, absolutely not. OPEX does not work for every business, and we understand that. There are some organizations that just cannot do anything on an OPEX model. So we understand. However, I think there is a bit of resistance in some customers to switch to that model, but there are financial benefit. There is financial benefit, sorry, to doing that. Again, it's recommended, and we can have a look at what that could look like for your business. I personally think an OPEX model is something that is a key part of device as a service. Again, not essential, but it allows you to have that predictability, the flexibility, and benefit from a lot of the things that we speak about. It's part of the service, I guess, to be able to associate a per device, per month cost and relay that back to your business. We want to buy this device with these services and with these peripherals, and it's going to cost us £28 a month. Done. So again, we appreciate it can't work for every business, but we like to explore that option. Even if it's a no, we still want to be able to give you a CapEx versus OpEx option.
Lovely. And I think we've got one last question, and that's, how much control do I retain on the apps installed on my systems?
And now that's a really interesting one, actually, because I do often get asked this. You retain full control. Giving you that tech pulse, giving you that proactive management, that's just to benefit you. That's just to add, maybe alleviate a little bit of pressure. But we want you to retain control. It's still your fleet, it's still your estate. And Justin, I'm sure you could probably speak a little bit more about that from someone who's actually done that.
Indeed, yeah, no, it absolutely. We still have and drive forward our own apps. I get to choose what's installed. You know, there is a certain level of lockdown these days, but that obviously serves to protect. But again, you know, all these things during your personal engagement with the DaaS team, you can get control and understand the length and limits of what you can do. But there's barely none in terms of flexibility to you. You get absolute control, no limits. So yeah, thank you all for those questions. Yeah, I think that's it from our side. I think next slide, we've got a couple more events coming up. So next one, 2020 vision with digital surveillance, 8th of October. And then obviously our playing hide and seek in a virtual world. I love the titles, they're great, aren't they? So that's coming up on the 22nd. And as I mentioned at the start of this, I also have an event on the evening of the 8th of October, which is my CTO level event. So you'll find all these things on our website, so please feel free to dive in. Thank you all for attending. If you want to play back any of these that we've ever presented out, please remember they're also on our website. They're also on YouTube. So yeah, please feel free to let other people know about them and share. So thanks ever so much for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you all again soon.